How you guys doing? Welcome to another session with your favorite therapist. Yours truly, Talk to Mac. It's a pleasure to be here to have a conversation with you guys. I know I've not been around on the YouTube space for a while. Life has been happening, but we've decided to make a change. So what I'm going to do now is start doing a weekly Q&A when I answer your relationship, parenting, mental health, pop culture questions from a therapeutic perspective, from my perspective. And the goal is that will just help me build my YouTube and build my presence. For the past years, I've lended my voice, I've lended my credibility, I've lended my expertise to different platforms. Now it's time for me to start building my own platform. And I'm dedicated to doing that here for me. The likelihood of me doing somebody else's pod is kind of very low right now. I don't know how long I'm gonna feel like that, but I really want to dedicate the time to my own. Okay, so on Instagram, I posted a story box asking, what questions do you guys have? What questions would you like some answers on regarding relationships, mental health, parenting, whatever the case may be? And a lot of people went in on the Cassie and Diddy situation. As you guys know, Diddy's currently on trial. I think today's day 13. And from my calculations and what I've read, they got him. But there was a lot of conversations happening around Cassie and mental health and relationships. So I'm going to dedicate this episode to solely talking about that. I think I have a number of 2 to 3 questions. I might just do 2 because my first time doing this. I don't want it to last for too long. I don't have a name for this. I don't know if this is a podcast. I have no idea. We're figuring it out together, and in time we'll decide on what we're going to do next. So the number one question that I got is, why didn't Cassie leave? This question saddened me. I was upset. Through the socials, there's a group of people that are kind of blaming Cassie, attacking Cassie, labeling Cassie, saying that she was a willing participant. She was just looking for a payout, that she consented to all of this, and now she's crying wolf. I don't know what the saying is, but a lot of people were just blaming Cassie and saying that she is a part of this and she should not be taking the stand or even phrasing things to kind of depict her being manipulated or conditioned or abused or etc. Right? And again, a lot of people are saying, why didn't she just leave? Like, she didn't have to stay. Well, there's another subset group of people, I would say about most of the population, so thank you Jesus, who were just talking more about showing compassion and understanding and empathy for Cassie, knowing that she was 19 years old, knowing that hearing all of the things that she had to endure, all of the things that she had to face, everything that she has gone through. A lot of people were wishing her well, also with her being eight months pregnant. So there was a lot of pouring of love and understanding and support, and that made me feel really good to see that, right? Especially me being a father of 2 little girls. Like, come on. I've lost some friendships because of this trial. I am not a safe space to blame victims. I'm not that person. So any male friends of mine or female friend of mine that were more focused on blaming Cassie and saying all of the nonsense, yeah, you're texting again a response from her. We are not that cool moving forward. So here's the answer though. Why didn't Cassie leave? That is a great question, and that does make a lot of sense. And the answer is, it's very simple. It's called trauma bonding. Why didn't Cassie leave, you ask? It's because she was trauma bonded to her abuser. Trauma bonding is when abuse is met with moments, keyword is moments, of joy, apology, happiness, comfort, or whatever the case may be. This tends to create a cycle of emotional confusion and psychological dependency on one another. What do I mean? Again, the abuse is being met with moments of joy, and for many people it might be they start to reveal themselves and show emotional vulnerability, or it might go shopping, or it might go hang out and go party, or it's just those small pockets of moment where you're like, oh, this is the persons that I've always wanted. This is what I wanted my relationship to actually look like. And this pocket of time, maybe if I just love them harder, love them better, or listen more, then I would get more of that, because they're not really that monster. They are this pocket of happiness in that moment. And that's what we want them to be. And that makes a lot of sense. And I also want you guys to remember, when it comes to trauma bonding, the same person that is causing the harm is the same person and the only person that is offering comfort, which then creates that loop, right? I abuse you, I take advantage of you, I beat you, I punish you, but then in return, I'm the only person around that can give you a sense of comfort, a sense of love, a sense of joy, a sense of happiness, right? So the abuser then becomes the sole provider of that pocket of happiness that we tend to hold on to. On average, it takes a survivor an average of 7 attempts before they fully walk away. So for all those asking, why didn't Cassie walk away? Well, I think based on everything that we have read, she has attempted to on many occasions. Sometimes she did return voluntarily. Other times she was found and captured. But again, due to that trauma bonding and that psychological dependence and that pocket of time that we tend to over identify with, overly desire, this plays a role as to why those that survivors do not fully walk away from their abuser, and that's why it takes so much time. And that's also due to both physical and emotional manipulation, isolation, fear, control, and financial. In Cassie's state, I mean, this man did call his parents and threatened to release sex tapes of her doing horrific things in the freak-offs, demanded $20,000, reminded her that she wouldn't have a career, has shown his ability to get in touch with all of those that she loves and that cares for her, and a willingness to do whatever it takes to remind her of how much reach he has. Example, Kid Cudi's car. So why didn't Cassie leave? It's very simple. Cassie was trauma bonded to her survivor. Survivors do not stay because they want to be part of this. Survivors stay because they are trauma bonded to their abuser. So please keep this in mind as you guys consistently are making remarks about Miss Ventura. I hope I answered that well. There's a lot more I wanted to say, but we just keep it at that. The second most interesting question that I got came from a family friend. They picked up the phone and they called me, and then they asked me, hey, Mac, how can you tell someone is going to be physically abusive to you before they ever lay hands on you? And I thought that was such a powerful question. It was such an amazing question that I'm going to repeat it again. How can you tell that someone is going to be physically abusive before they ever lay a hand on you? Great question. If you think about it, most abusers do not start out as abusers. They start out very charming. They tend to look very normal, right? So there's no really tell sign that tells you instantly that this person is going to be physically or emotionally abusive to you. On average, more than half of those that have been physically abused were emotionally abused first. Almost 50% of those that have been physically abused have been emotionally abused first. And at first, you do not really see the sense of abuse up until it gets into a certain point. It happens in small pockets of time. It's microaggression. It's very minor at first. It might be them making certain comments or doing certain things, but to you that's weird. To you that's abnormal, but it's so minuscule that you don't have the word to label it because it's not abuse as of yet, but it's tinkering around that desire for control over you. As a couples therapist, I've seen the signs. They are very clear, right? I've really paid attention to these things. And they are as follows. Love bombing. I think I would say every influencer on social media has covered the aspect of love bombing for the past 2 years, especially when it relates to narcissism. But love bombing is an overly expression of desire, attention, and appreciation and love from one person to another when the time frame does not require that. For example, right, saying I love you after 2 days of meeting you, requesting your presence back to 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 back, and which is not really a bad thing, but when you say no, then they have a problem with it. They start to feel some type of way because they feel rejected. An overly expression of appreciation. First date, you go to work and at your job you find the biggest bouquet of flowers, right? Love bombing. They are giving you all of this attention and all of these things to kind of sway you, to kind of force you or influence you to feel positively toward them. And to you, their emotional state and what they are doing to showcase what they appreciate and love and desire about you just doesn't match the time frame. They're buying you a Cartier bracelet after 2 weeks, right? It don't make sense in most cases. I'm not going to say this applies to everyone, but if you have to question whether or not you're being love bombed, then you are being love bombed. So to simplify it, it's when their expression, their desire, and their request of you does not match the time frame or the cycle of the phase of that relationship. So that's the best way that I could put it. The second one is gaslighting, right? When somebody's gaslighting you, that's emotional manipulation, the same way that love bombing is. I think a lot of us get gaslighting wrong, right? But gaslighting is when someone is actively telling you that whatever you experience is not accurate. Whatever your experience was, that you can recall, that you experienced in front of them or around them or whatever the case may be, they're trying to convince you, no, that is not true, that's not accurate, and then they're offering you a different version. Another form of gaslighting is that during that dialogue or that conflict, they tend to increase their tone and their expression, like they start yelling or start being more aggressive, and then when you start to respond in that way, they bring themselves down and then start to label you as you being aggressive, you yelling, you screaming, you going 0 to 100, when the whole time they were doing similar things that they know is triggering you and your responses, and then when you respond, they blame you for it. That is gaslighting, okay? Said by a couples therapist. The third one is control. They desire control on what you wear, how you dress, who you hang out with, who you talk to, where you go. Is that you need permission for every single thing. Or they may not even request it of you, but they do it in subtle ways that when you've made a decision without them, you automatically feel bad or wonder how they're going to feel about your decision. In Cassie's state, right? She wasn't allowed to be around certain people or talk to certain people. I'm sure that he even tried to negatively impact her relationship with her parents, right? They don't want you around those that can hold you accountable, that can remind you of who you are and your power, that can advocate for you, or that will just remind you that you don't deserve the nonsense that you're going through. Another one would be jealousy disguised as love. Jealousy disguised as love. Come on, right? Toxic love, you know? I don't want you to go to the club with your girlfriends or go out for drinking because something might happen to you. But truthfully, they're just anxious about your ability to meet other people or be around others. That they rather that you don't do that so they can keep you within their grasp, within the world that they've created and told you is safe for you. So there's that concept. Isolation, which also ties into control. Again, keeping you away from those that you love, that cares for you, that can hold you accountable, that can advocate for you, they dictate when and where you can go out, how to present yourself, and all of those things. So if most of these red flags are present, then it's more likely that this person that is emotionally manipulating you will get into a point where they will become physical as well. And that's just the process, right? Because they need to reinforce their manipulation. So if they are attempting to isolate you, and then you're making contact and you're going out without their approval, you're dressing a certain way without their approval, if you don't do what they say, then they become aggressive, because they have to remind you that you must follow suit. You must listen. And that abuse is then followed by love bombing. Shopping, access to money, vacations, whatever the case may be, to make you feel good, for that pocket of joy that then further creates the trauma bonding. That's all, guys. I just wanted to address those two questions. I didn't really, since it's the first time that I'm doing this, I didn't want to spend an hour of doing this, because I also don't know how to edit, so I got to figure that out. But I do appreciate you guys for taking the time to listen and watch this. Make sure you like, subscribe, drop a comment, send it to your friends. I'm trying to get back in the swing of things. I'm trying to get back in the game. So thank you for being so patient. There will be more. I think the next topic that I'm gonna do is gonna be Remy Ma and Papoose. So if you don't follow me, go to my Instagram, Talk to Max Stanley. I will have a question box open. You drop your questions. I'll probably select 1 to 3 of them, and then redo this whole format and talk about it from my perspective. I appreciate you. It's been a pleasure. Talk to Mac out.